It's the Rip City Wrap-Up, brought to you by Dick Hanna Subaru. Believe in nice. Here are your hosts, Tyree Smith, Denny Marang, and Joe Simons.
Peyton Pritchard is a Westland local kid. I don't know why he decided to do what he did tonight. Gosh, I don't like that. Anyways, welcome into the Rip City Wrap-Up, episode 63, sponsored by the good people at Dick Hanna Subaru. Danny Marang, how you doing, brother?
I'm okay.
All right, Joe Simons, how we doing, brother?
Good.
Good?
I'm well, Tyree.
You're well?
Thank you so much.
All right, I hope you guys are doing well. Use the hashtag RC Wrap-Up to join in the conversation to talk about this Blazers game. 128-118. The boys fall on the road at TD Garden. Just one heck of honestly, a slugfest in many ways. Anthony Simons led the team with 30 points, and Peyton Pritchard led the Boston with 43. Good people, gentlemen, what's your quick thoughts on tonight's game?
Glass half full. Let's start there.
All right.
For the Blazers to lose in Boston, teammates Derek White and Peyton Pritchard had to do a thing that had never happened in Celtics history, and also another thing that had never happened in the history of the NBA. So it's the first time that two Celtics teammates have each scored 40 points in an NBA game. They've been playing basketball a long time.
No, they're not that good.
It is the first time that a pair of teammates have each hit 9 3-pointers in a game.
I honestly...
Celtics history, NBA history, both had to be made for the Blazers to lose. And they only lost by 10. And it's the defending champs, and Jabari and Ant were sensational.
And it was Derek White. I just didn't expect this type of game out of him at all. You expect Peyton Pritchard. He shoots the threes, but I didn't expect Derek White to have this in his bag.
I don't think you expect Peyton Pritchard to hit 10 threes. I don't think you expect Derek White to hit 9 threes. But even more, it's becoming increasingly strange and or weird to get up here and talk about a Blazers loss because they've won so many games recently. I'm not going to say that they've reached the point of, this idea that you expect them to win.
Dude, in the first quarter, I'm kind of like, I think they might win.
They were certainly game.
They think they're going to win. They're playing basketball as if they're going to win. And even when maybe a couple of us in the room, myself included, were losing the faith a little bit when they were down, 20, 18 with 6 minutes left.
They got down 25.
They were like 1 or 2 possessions away from making, like Chauncey said, they missed 1 or 2, and it gets a little tricky. And I think that's right. They weren't that far off. And you're playing a team of this caliber. Yeah, they're down 3 starters, but they're still really good without those 3 starters. Portland was game. They were game tonight.
And I think that's the story of the last 60 days, maybe longer now. I mean, going back to, I know everybody wants to use the January 18th kind of moment, but I've used as the calendar turn January 1st, because at that point when the calendar flipped, even though they weren't winning as many games as they had been, or they have been over the stretch, you could see the habits, the things starting to change. It's where it started. Everybody was like, oh, they started winning here, and that's where we should count it from. It's like, well, as the calendar flipped, you saw a lot of the stuff that started leading to the winning. You saw them run a little bit more. You saw them get a little bit better on the glass. You saw them defend a little bit better. It wasn't in as long of spurts, and it just kind of built and built and built. And that's the thing is, like, even today, even with the Boston Celtics missing guys, no Jrue Holiday, no Jason Tatum, no Kristaps Porzingis, even though they get down as many as 25, they did have a bit of a puncher's chance if a couple of shots, rim out either for the Celtics or slide in for the Blazers. And look, I want to give Ant his love tonight because he was incredible, but Jabari Walker had the best game of his career from an offensive production standpoint in the sense of going 6 of 6 from 3. And there was a moment in that game, he hits his first 2 threes, and he shoots a look over to Chauncey Billups, and Chauncey's clapping him up, pats him on the butt, kind of like,
okay, then.
Keep it going, big dog. Keep letting it fly. And he did, to his credit. 6 of 6 from 3, 22 points, 6 rebounds. The only thing about this game that, quote-unquote, bothered me is that Peyton Pritchard ends up leading the game in rebounds. And that, there's a part of this of, the Celtics shoot so many threes that you're bound to have long rebounds, and that is a thing that plays into this. But I saw Peyton Pritchard
offensive rebounds
grab offensive rebounds in the paint.
He had 4 of them. And not all in the paint, but he had 4.
But, I mean, I saw him grab offensive rebounds in the paint,
Sure.
and I'm like, no, you can't do that. I mean, we're flashing the box score up right now. The Blazers, 50% on field goals, 40% from the three-point line. I mean, if I told you they did that while also turning the ball over 8 times, 98 out of 100 times. Also, by the way, they shot 50% from the field and 40% on three on 40 attempts. Like, this is we talked about this early in the season. They get more than 15 made threes. That's probably
They're probably going to win the game.
Yeah, because they've struggled to shoot as a team. They've gotten better at that part of the game, but 23 made threes.
Yeah. Well, let's be
at a
clear.
43% clip is bonkers.
For Portland attempted.
Yeah. Well, that is a key metric too, because they average 46 a game.
48.
That's
48
disgusting.
attempts per game, so they're even over that. So, I mean, we have a couple things going on at once, right? Boston has a historic night from three, especially from two players. Portland almost claws back and gets themselves a real opportunity to actually, have this be a 1 or 2 possession game. But if Jabari Walker doesn't go nuts in that third quarter, this is probably a 30-point game, because Jabari was keeping Portland within touch of all right, well, it's just 18. Okay, well, he cut it down to 17. All right, it's 19. There was always Bari just kind of keeping them close enough to where Chauncey's let's keep the starters out there. Let's see if we get a run. And eventually they made that run. It just wasn't quite enough because it coincided with Boston finally going cold a little bit in the fourth quarter. But the deficit was, cold to the degree that they weren't making every single shot that they took. But something that Portland did, and I think it hurt them early in that third quarter, late in the second quarter. And it's very difficult to do, especially when you're playing a team as proficient as Boston, having a historic night from three. Mm-hmm. But when your opponent makes so many threes and you're not a great three-point shooting team, which Portland is not,
no.
It is difficult not to try to match, especially because they did a couple times in that second quarter where they went tit for tat. And it's all right, well, that's how we're going to stay in this game. And it's no, how you're actually going to stay in this game is getting out, running, being aggressive, getting to the free throw line. And Portland got away from that for a couple of stretches, just a few times in the second and third. And it was enough for Boston to swell that lead up to a point where Portland couldn't shrink it down enough.
Play their game. That's what you have to do. Play their game. And that's how they've been on this kind of win streak a little bit. One of the things that I've realized, at least about the secret ingredient, or the reason that this team has kind of been up and a run, is because they've had players kind of come out the woodworks and lead the charge in the game. Jabari Walker led us to. Anthony Simons obviously led with points, but 30. But we're talking about Jabari because that's something that
you're not counting on that.
Exactly.
Yes. There's been a guy that has stepped up every single night in some form or fashion. Whether it's Delano Banton with the 15-point fourth quarter.
16,
you have these different guys that have popped up. Denny has the 30-point triple double and gives them an opportunity to push the Cavs into overtime. You've just seen these different performances up and down the roster. Donovan Clingan's had a night. Chris Murray in his performance against the Wizards. They don't win that game without Chris. Was he give him 12 and 8 or 12 and 7 in that game? And it was a very crisp and efficient, much like Jabari Walker tonight. There was a lot of things I think to like about this game tonight, in the sense of what you got from them offensively. And I saw some people just across social media why are the Blazers collapsing so hard? Why don't they just stick to three-point shooters? It's they play 5 out. And so Donovan Clingan can't stand in the paint. He's got to get out there and contest an Al Horford. And he's still got that thing in him where he's got a bungee cord strapped to the back of his shorts that hooks to the rim. And he does it every time he goes out. It just slowly pulls him back in, because he's 7'3", 290 pounds, and that's where he's comfortable. And so you kind of forget. And these are the learning experiences, right? And I'm not sitting here putting this on the shoulders of Donovan Clingan, but these are the learning games, right? This is where you learn how to be a pro, what you can do, when you can do it, understanding personnel, how much room you can give guys, and you just get that through some more experience.
How big is Luke Cornett?
6'11", 7 foot.
He didn't look that big next to Donovan Clingan.
Nobody does.
It's wild because we're continuing to go through the league and seeing teams that Portland doesn't play regularly, right? In Cleveland, in Boston, against the Wiz. Andre Drummond, you see that matchup, and you just realize how big Donovan is. And if he can figure out that little... Because Donovan's great at taking up space.
Oh, yeah.
But it does seem like, if we're going to nitpick, obviously you'd like to see the hands get a little bit better, and I think that will probably happen with time. The other piece being, like you said, Marang, when he gets away from the bucket, he gets caught in no man's land a lot, and that is learning.
Yes.
And it is a very difficult spot to put him in to play a team like Boston and say, well, we don't have Rob to come off the bench. Ayton is hurt. We have to get our size and a little bit of movement from you. And if we don't have both those things, then it's got to be Bari. It's got to be Dwap, what we saw in the first half.
They went smaller.
You have to mix and match, because Boston started in the third quarter with Peyton Pritchard on the floor, so they were going smaller too, realizing what an advantage it was for them.
And beyond that, and the moment you talk about as far as like trading threes, right? To me, the key of this game was the 11-0 run at the end of the first half.
Yeah.
And it was the Blazers were pushing. They were holding lead. I think it was 47-42 at one point. And the Celtics, the Blazers have a couple of their turnovers just happen in this little pocket, or some shots missed at the rim. So one of the hardest things for you to do in transition defense is if you miss a shot at the rim with one of your guards, normally your point guard, if he's not the one penetrating, getting back to the rim, he's the first one back. Now, because your bigs are under the rim, they're either trying to seal for a rebound, box out, chase the ball, those kind of things. When your guard gets all the way to the rim and misses a shot, now he's probably kind of gliding into the baseline out of bounds, and he's got to cover 95 feet to get back. And the Celtics were like, we're going to push now. And they pushed with and Chauncey Billups has said multiple times, the first three steps are the most important steps in transition, whether getting defense or pushing hard to get on an offense. And the Blazers were just a teensy bit tentative in getting back because Donovan Clingan's on the floor. And he's an offensive rebounding monster. And so you're like, well, Don might get this, so let me hang for just a split second. And those split seconds, those are where veteran teams beat you. That's where the Celtics beat you, even shorthanded. That's where the Cleveland Cavaliers beat you, even without Donovan Mitchell. And this was a game that was won on the margins, and on the margins, it was on efficiency. They get out and they get an early shot clock opportunity. Bing, 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 move the ball around, and it's either Peyton Pritchard, open three in the corner, or, heaven forbid, an end of shot clock fade away three in the corner over Scoot Henderson. Like, they were hot, but they were also capitalizing on those efficiency moments that they created by just knowing what to do and when to do it and when to put their foot down.
But when you think about this game specifically, how do you defend that? When we were watching the game, I even said it, I'm like, I'm exhausted watching this Boston offense. Like, my goodness, 54 threes. I understand that's the way and age kind of how you got to do it, but I don't feel like, gosh, is that really the best way to win in the NBA nowadays?
If you can make them, it is.
Yeah.
Like
the math says it does.
Boston has built their team to play this way. They have size, they're long, and they have guys who can make three. Like, you basically can't get on the floor for Boston if you're not a competent three-point shooter. Like, that is part of the deal with that team. Yeah, Al Horford, dude. I mean, Al Horford was basically had the Patrick Ewing, Horace Grant range for the first, I don't know,
he
5 years of his
elbows.
career. Exactly. Like when he was in Atlanta, that's what he did. Yeah. And then Boston's like, hey, Al, why don't you take a few steps back? And here he is, elongating his career, winning championships, being this really big factor for one of the three best teams in the NBA. Like, this is a really reductive way to talk about this game, but it is a 3-point team. Like, that is what Boston is. Boston beat Portland.
Two guys hit 19 threes.
Well, that's the thing. Boston beat Portland by 21 points at the three-point line, and Portland lost by 10. So, like, there's a lot of ways to look at this to say Portland did really, really well in a lot of metrics. Like, if this was a boxing match, it's not a knockout, right? Portland stayed up, and it was a decision.
It went to the cards.
It definitely went to the cards. This didn't go 15 rounds like the Cleveland game, but they went 12 rounds with Boston today.
The thing is, there's probably a point in time where you're looking at it at halftime or before halftime where the Blazers are ahead in this count. Like, the early rounds are going to the Trailblazers.
First 20 minutes, Dan.
Yeah, and I think, and then they have that spurt to close out the first half. But this is what professional, title-winning, championship-level teams do: is that they are able to turn the gas on when they need to do it the most. That's veteran teams. Just they aren't shaken. And to your point about trying to go swing for swing with the Boston Celtics, the Celtics are playing their brand of basketball. Right. And to your point, Tyree, the idea of like, how do you stop this? Well, the Dallas Mavericks are still trying to figure that out. Last year's NBA Finals, like, great teams are struggling with dealing with this because they take so many threes at such volume. And I am not a guy who sits here and goes like, the three-point shot is ruining basketball. What the Celtics do is impressive. I am not going to take that away. The ball movement part of it, I really enjoy. But just the bombing away from three, I'm not saying it's ruining the game. I just don't enjoy it. It's not my particular cup of tea. 54 threes is too many threes.
It is, but if your team is doing it,
which you hear the Boston fans just wound up for it.
Right. If your team is doing it, it's probably pretty cool. Like, it's awful to watch. Like, as an objective NBA fan, yeah, threes are more prevalent, and it makes sense because of the math, Tyree. But, like, it is not a fun experience.
Dunks are cooler than threes.
A team wouldn't do this if they weren't one of the best teams in the NBA. If a team was doing this and winning 24
you can't just do this
games a year,
the Charlotte
coach
Hornets
would
are
be
doing
around town.
The Charlotte Hornets are bombing away from three.
And where are they?
They're god-awful.
They're
trying to capture that flag.
Yeah, I mean, it's horrendous stuff. But the Blazers, I thought, played a brand of basketball offensively that got a little outside their bounds for a short period. Otherwise, they pretty much kept it together. And we've got this deep in the show other than mentioning Anthony Simons. Anthony Simons has another very good game. What's kind of crazy about it is Ant was not great from three. He was 3 of 10 from three, but he was 9 of 11 on twos.
And those threes he did make, though, came in a clutch moment.
Yes, but I mean, the finishing at the
loud mix.
Ants finishes the rim. We were talking about it during the game. You know, right-hand baby hook floating across the paint, lefty runners. Like, he was incredibly crafty.
Well, and the one piece, just to jump in real quick, that we talk about that has become almost so routine that I sort of take it for granted as that's just what Ant does. But driving to the basket and shooting away from his body.
Yeah.
Just the opposite direction of where he's going. It is very impressive.
Going across the lane.
Going across the lane. That's a better way to put it. And basically shooting away from his momentum, which is an incredibly difficult thing for mere mortals to do. But for Ant, this is just in his bag. Like, this is something he does.
He has like a post finishing bag. It's very interesting. He's not the best like through contact guy, which is why I think he's kind of evolved this way. CJ McCollum, he developed his mid-range game. Number one, he could absolutely shoot the living bejesus out of it. But two, because he damaged his feet so many times in his career, both at Lehigh and early in Portland, that he was like, you know what? I'm not go to the rim. I'm not going to go to the paint. Let me find a way to be incredibly efficient. And CJ McCollum is one of the best mid-range shooters of this generation. And Ant's kind of found his answer that, like, I'm not going to generate free throws. I've tried. Like, Ant has told me specifically, like, I'm trying to generate contact. I'm trying to, like, hey,
it's not happening.
Do all the things. He's like, but I weigh $195. I just get knocked off balance, and they're just going to go, get up.
And also, he doesn't have the nerve. Hey!
Yeah, exactly.
Who perfected it?
No, but he has everybody crowding him. When he was going to the basket tonight, we saw like 4 Blazers. I mean, not 4 Blazers. Boston Celtics just crowd around him because he's
the kick out to Jabari multiple times. Where Ant's game tonight, you would struggle to find a better game. 30.6 assists, no turnovers. 8 turnovers from the Trailblazers tonight. Took incredibly good care of the ball, and most of those turnovers came early in the game. Scoot was a little rushed. I think he kind of wanted to go at Peyton Pritchard a little bit.
Obviously.
He sauced him up early in the game.
He did.
And Peyton went that way, and Scoot went that way, and you could tell Peyton Pritchard did not like that. The following play was when Peyton tried to attack him right back and couldn't beat Scoot, and he hits that fall-away corner 3. And that was kind of like, oh, Peyton Pritchard's going to cook.
Even though Wes Lynn's favorite son did get the better of Scoot, I like to see Scoot go after the guy who's having the night.
He was angry. Did you see him
I
post-game?
loved it.
Yeah.
Like his...
That's what I want. And I also, exactly, I also love that Chauncey was like, these guys aren't like casual about what happened out there. They're pissed.
Yes.
They think they can beat Boston, and they didn't, and they're mad about that.
They just lost to Cleveland in overtime. Like they're sitting there and they see Jason Tatum out, Drew Holiday out, Kristaps Porzingis out. They're not going to that game thinking, oh, maybe we have a chance. They're going to the game thinking we absolutely can win this game. To be clear, I think they came into this game not only thinking they could, that they should win the game. And that's such I can't even begin to quantify how seismic of a change and mentality that is for these young guys.
It's the same thing that Casey Holdall, you sound exactly like him. We had him on Arc PDX actually yesterday, and he was talking about the Blazers, and I was like, are they going to actually continue to try and forget, every other outside circumstances? And he said this. He's like, oh, they don't care about nothing. They just want to win. They are going head first. If they can win, they are going to win. This is a team that's no longer kind of thinking about the outside things of what could be. He said they're just focused on what is in front of them, and which is winning, winning, winning. And I think that's an incredible mindset to have for a team. And when we started talking about this in October, our first Rip City wrap-up, we weren't even mentioning postseason.
Oh, God, no. I mean, it's kind of a quasi-major league come to life.
Only one thing left to do.
Yeah, and that's win the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a little bit of that attitude that you see kind of coming through. Hey, we weren't supposed to do this. You know, we were cobbled together for that. And now it's different because it's a rebuilding team, and this was kind of purposeful. But this is organizationally, this is not what they expected. It is what they hoped would happen, and not even this to this level. It was more of a, how can we bring more of this out? Like this is kind of what you wanted to see down the final 20. Instead, it is heading down the final 40. Which, if you're doing this for, you've heard me talk about sample sizes a million times, Joe.
Yeah.
I don't care about 1 game, 3 game, 5 game. I always say, give me 20, give me 25, give me real data to work with. The Blazers having basically, when this is all said and done at the end of the season, 40-ish games to work with. Because this is what they've played. They're now 15-7 in their last 22 games. They have 20 games remaining.
16-6, as a matter of fact.
Okay, 16-6. So 16-6 over 22 games. You have 20 games remaining, and now so you're going to have more than a half season's worth of data, and it's going to be good. Like that's where you actually. It's not the Trailblazers who closed the game on a 13-game winning streak against kind of a soft schedule, but you sneak it. You know, you find a way to like, oh no, this is proof of concept. When it's 40+ games, it does begin to become proof of concept.
Jeremy is one thing. Jeremy's been hot and cold and up and down. I know he's a very political figure for Blazer fans right now, but DeAndre Ayton is important to this team. If you're like the Blazers need to win games, Donovan, if DeAndre Ayton was on the team right now, it would make an enormous difference because you have Don coming off the bench as opposed to being a starter. I know we want to see DC develop and get minutes, but if we're like 10th or die, DeAndre Ayton would be such a big piece to have.
He's a functional veteran who's consistent.
He can score. He can read. Like his floor is very high.
Yes.
People like to bag on his energy, but like he was part of that for a 3-week, month-long stretch. The spirit meter runneth over.
Yes.
Yeah.
With DA.
And even if they had Robert Williams tonight, things probably looked a little bit different. Also, his former team. You don't think he wanted to get back?
Oh yeah, man. It's unfortunate, just because it's with Rob and an injury. That's always kind of the thing that you're kind of hearkening back to. But even, as great as Rob is, Rob's not comfortable running out after 3-point shooters all game either. That's the thing is like the whole Celtics ethos. It puts pressure on you at all times. That 5-out offense, teams are just not constructed to deal with it, and it's not the same as like the death lineup Warriors. Because that had Steph Curry, it had Klay Thompson, it had Kevin Durant, it had Draymond Green. You had 4 first-ballot Hall of Famers, and then swap out whether it's Andre Iguodala or Harrison Barnes. It's like, yeah, there's no other team in basketball that's going to be able to do that to you. But the pressure that they would put on you from basically 40 feet and in, you've got guys like Sam Hauser who's shooting 40% from 3 on the season. It's not like he's a bit part player. When he comes on the floor, he's expected to get up, take, and make threes. The same with Peyton Pritchard. And it also shows you that the guys that are pushed down to lesser roles, the Drew Holidays and Derek Whites, these are guys that can scale up. Like they can. People forget that like those are really good players that they're just asking less of on a night-to-night basis when both Jays are playing.
There's only so many shots to go around.
Exactly.
Yeah,
These guys aren't getting them, but they can still make them.
No, yeah. But you know what? Something that I got to talk about here is the weather. It's been very nice.
Oh.
Extremely nice. Who's also nice? Dick Hannah Subaru, Joe.
Friends, we're so excited because fake spring is here. It's the perfect time to check out the new 2025 Subaru models. Rolling in every day over at Dick Hannah Subaru. Subaru delivers with that lifetime powertrain warranty on every new car. Experience nice in the car business over at Dick Hannah Subaru. Believe in nice. Visit them today and see why a Subaru is perfect for the season. And your next big assist, it's time for a deep dive into a shallow topic. That's right. It's TrendBA.
TrendBA time. To the Blazer box we go, people. Well, let's go ahead and talk about our boy, Mr. Toumani Camara. Was the Western Conference Defender of the Month. And I mean, it's very warranted, is it not? I mean, like, goodness gracious, 24 steals, 18 offensive fouls drawn, and 4 charges drawn. Toumani has easily become a top 6 defender in the league. You got to talk about that.
That's a slow month in terms of charges drawn. Just 4 for 2? Come on, buddy.
He's
picking up in March again.
I mean,
I think he leads the league by 9 at this point.
He has
next closest player.
He has more charges drawn this year than the Celtics do as a team.
Let's go. Good. And he had one taken away, and that was actually turn out to be a big call.
It was dicey though.
It was
dicey.
I can't remember what it was. It was 41 all, I think. Mm-hmm. Jaylen Brown just picked up a charge.
Would have been Jalen's third
on Shaedon, and then I think a possession or two later picked up it would have been a charge on 2. They said he was inside the restricted area. The replay was a little bit inconclusive.
His heel was above the line, which.
So he's hovering over it.
It's basically a cylinder that goes all the way to the ceiling, and it was very little.
Anyway, 2 got robbed.
Yes.
Well, I want to ask you about that. They said, should he be Defensive Player of the Year conversation?
He should be in the conversation. I want to give 2 all the love in the world. I don't think he should be the Defensive Player of the Year. I think that should go to Evan Mobley, Jaren Jackson, one of those 2 guys.
How much does the quality of the entirety of the team factor into your mind?
It does.
It has to.
It does.
Even those 80-plus rebounds in the month of February, that was not...
No, look, here's where the argument gets interesting, is whether or not he makes first or second team. Because the first team right now is going to be Jaren Jackson.
Positionless, right?
Yes.
Just the 5 guys.
It's going to be Jaren Jackson. It's going to be Evan Mobley. Those 2 guys are 100% going to be there. Dyson Daniels is going to lead the NBA in steals, and he's shattered the record for deflections. He is your 4th guy. Now, does it become Lou Dort? Does it become Toumani Camara? Does it become Jalen Williams? The Oklahoma City Thunder have the best defense in basketball, and you're telling me that neither Caruso, Dort, Shea, or Jalen are going to make first-team all-defense?
I mean, isn't Dort sort of the one that media members are most comfortable putting in there?
I think Jalen has an argument, and I think Caruso has an argument. That's the thing, is like that's how good they are.
But will they cannibalize votes for each other?
They could, but in the same vein, those points could also be taken away from Toumani Camara.
But those are also multiple guys on one team. When Camara is singly one standing out for the Blazers.
You don't have to argue with me. Like for me, 2 is the guy who's fighting for that 5th spot. Mm-hmm. He is the guy that is fighting for that 5th spot. Because I don't. You could argue that Dyson Daniels doesn't make the first team because the Hawks are also not as good and they don't have the rest of the support around it. But typically when you have a number that's that high, whether it's steals, whether it's blocks, a counting metric in the box score, it's very, very, very difficult to deny that. And I would be surprised that the Great Barrier Thief was left off the list. But honestly, on nicknames alone, it's pretty good.
Is it him or 2? Is that basically where we are?
I think that's ultimately...
That's a tough spot to be because
it is.
I love 2. He's my top 2 favorite Blazer right now. There's no way he's going to get it over Dyson Daniels. Because Dyson is way more known. The nickname, you say facetiously, that's a big factor.
No,
because he is
Great
known.
Barrier Thief is a great nickname. Beyond that, it's 2 winning Western Conference Play of the Month. I mentioned it on Twitter. It is a version of the Prestige Zone. And what I mean by the Prestige Zone is like once you make it into the club,
that's right.
You have the momentum behind you, and he's basically been stamped by the league. And what that does, that gets you in the narrative, that gets you in these spots where you were talked about more. The casual NBA media members like, oh yeah, that Toumani Camara, because you want to sound good at the party, right? Like Toumani Camara, absolutely, that's the guy you want to talk about. And he's starting to get more of that narrative, and he will stay up there as long as he continues to perform. It's one of those things that will last longer than even his reputation, because once you're in the club, it's harder to get in the club than it is to be pushed unceremoniously out the back, as it were. But now that he's there, it's going to be very interesting. And the company he would keep if he made the first team or the second team, you look at the Trailblazers in history, there are not that many players. I mean, outside of the following title year team, so you've got Bob Gross, you've got Mo Lucas, Bill Walton, and Lionel Hollins. Those 4 guys all made all defensive teams.
Awesome.
Outside of those guys, there have been 3 players, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, 3 players, Kermit Washington, 4, Scottie Pippen, Buck Williams, Theo Ratliff.
So Theo's the only one this century, or was Scottie?
No,
Scottie
was 98, 99.
99. Wow.
Theo Ratliff is the only Trailblazer who has made a all-defensive team in the 21st century, and that was in 03-04, which, if I remember correctly, I think he led the NBA in blocks that year.
Sure.
So it's a hard hill to climb.
It is, but it also, if he gets in that club, you were, again, further stamped. And also, you start thinking about it, the number of players that the Blazers have had that have been defensive-minded. It's a long list of players. But the list of guys that have made all defensive teams is very short. Like, if you get on that list, man, like, that's pretty impressive.
And it's almost more impressive for 2 compared to the rest of the list because 2 started from 0. There was no Toumani Camara narrative entering this season outside the Portland metro area.
And even then, there are people like, I always knew he'd be all defense. It's like, slow your roll, guys. Like, this is not,
and
it's early.
Yes, and again, this
early in his career.
This is not common. Like, again, the names that I was making sure I didn't miss anybody. Yes, Theo Ratliff, Scottie Pippen, Buck Williams, Kerbert Washington, Lionel Hollins, Mo Lucas, Bill Walton, Bobby Gross. That is the list of Trailblazers ever to make a all-defensive team. And you think about it, no Wes Matthews.
No Nick.
No Nick Batum. You go back, no Terry Porter.
Yeah.
No Cliff Robinson. Like, you just kind of look at all these teams. Now, those 80s teams, there's a lot of offense there. I didn't expect a lot of those guys to do that. And, it's a tweet here, all in his second season. That's what makes this crazy.
Well, it is arguably the toughest club to get into in the NBA because
There's only
there's
2 teams.
2 of these teams. So you get 1 of 10 spots. All NBA, there's 15 of those guys. All Stars, you're probably talking.
You're mixing and matching.
Yeah, 15 maybe.
Well, it's 12 with injuries.
Yeah, so you're probably going to get somewhere 25-ish,
25
27.
to 28.
Sure, so there's more of those. There's just the rookie, the sophomore, the rising stars. Like, there's opportunity to get these metrics, but this is kind of the toughest one. And you mentioned the rubber stamping. There's probably a lot of that with this. Because once you get a reputation, like you said, for being a defensive-minded guy, it's easier to just be like, yeah, Lou Dort. Like, again, maybe Jalen and Alex have had better seasons for OKC, but Lou Dort is the guy you think of.
And he hasn't gotten on that list yet, despite having the torture chamber. This is why 2 needs the nickname, which Lamar Hurd's The Shadow is very good.
Okay.
It's very good.
Tumania,
Don't get me wrong, Toumani is good. Look, basketball, we love you. It's a fantastic nickname.
Here's the thing. We call Delano Banton DB Hooper.
Yes.
Like, that's just his name now.
Yes.
Like, Kling Kong,
Yep.
I can see that is the nickname.
There you go.
There's alternatives, Black Lobster, but that is the nickname. Like, it is difficult to make a nickname so good. The Glide.
Yes.
That's
glove.
what we call him. The Glove.
King.
The round mound to rebound.
Yes. The Worm, like
Brody.
Yeah.
I mean,
But Russ,
it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
Diesel.
look, and it can't just be like Jason Tatum, JT. It's like, no, initials are not. No, there has to be something else
get
there.
out of here, Jason Tatum.
Like, I hate that. It's like, oh no, what's your nickname? It's my initials. It's like,
get that.
that's fine, but that's not your nickname. It's like, the torture chamber is incredible.
It is.
It's just, so it's just.
What was Dwayne Wade's? What was his? Flash. Okay, yeah.
No, great nicknames. Kobe Bryant. Look, he's the only guy that ever gave himself his own nickname, and it was kind of dope. Mambo.
I don't like Kobe at all. Mama's unbelievable.
It's
There we go.
Like, it's undeniable.
Yeah.
So we got to get 2 to get him a nickname.
Look, the Shadow is good.
right.
The Shadow is good. The
It's
Shadow is good.
I think we can do better. Lamar, I love you. I think it's a very good nickname. I am not taking away from it. I just think there's more there.
You know what? Let's talk about more there. One person we didn't get to talk about yet is Denny tonight. He left with the left quad injury.
The re-injury of the left quad.
Yeah. He only had 12 points when he left the game, but his efficiency tonight was still pretty good when he was on the field. I liked it a little bit. Yeah.
I think if it wasn't an 18-point game, Denny would have stayed in the game. I think if it was a 5-point game down the stretch, I don't know anything. I don't have any insight. And yes, it was a re-aggravation and it's a road trip. However, knowing Denny and in a loving way, knowing what a lunatic he is. Yes, exactly.
I was going to go for your word.
That he would have stayed in this game. Now, he was fine in this game tonight. He was 5 of 10, like you said, Tyree, 12 points. He was doing things a little bit in the margins because
When
that's
they needed it.
what was necessary.
Yes.
Getting to the basket. Again, without Denny Avdia on this team, like, I don't know where Portland is. And speaking about 2 so glowingly, no matter what we have and where this season ends, Portland's got 2 wings that they can feel awesome about going into the offseason. And you felt like, oh, Denny, I hope he's good because he gave up a lot. And it's like, all right, 2's going to start. That's cool. Let's see what happens. But 61 games into this season, we got 2 wings, gentlemen, like with a bullet.
Compared to, you can say they've been top 2 of our Blazers on this season, or at least during this last stretch.
I think you could say that they've been the two most impactful and most important players.
No question.
Yeah, no, it's a great meme. I do love it. We've gotten this far into the show, and I want to make sure we continue to acknowledge what Shaedon Sharp has been doing. 25-6. And again, I will continue to beat this drum over and over
because he started, Dan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what else he did? He hit the glass again. That is like Shaedon. There was 2 moments in this game where Shaedon Sharp made me say things I can't say on TV. One of them was settling for an 18-foot spinning fadeaway jumper over 5'11" Peyton Pritchard. And I was like, brother, that is a shot you cannot settle for. I don't care how loose your handle is and how much you need to work on it.
I knew winding up to that you were going to say how tall Peyton Pritchard was. I love that I know you that well.
Just
because of the amount of rebounds he had.
Put your freaking shoulder in your chest and run that little man over. I don't care.
Wow. Westland is going to be at your door.
Look, no, it has nothing to do with you are a bigger, stronger 0.1% athlete. Do not let that man dictate that to you. You cannot let that happen.
Well, Shea was also 11 and 18 from the field.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. There was only 2 moments in this game. The other one was on the defensive side where he let Peyton Pritchard bully him. And I was like...
Pritchard did back him down one time.
And I was like,
had a game.
Shea, get big. I would rather see him in those moments. I want to see him in the physical moments, whoever it is, come out on top over and over and over again, because that's the level of athlete he is. I'm not talking he needs to go up chest to chest with Zion. I'm talking about there was a play where he had an unbelievable finish. Step through traffic, both bigs. It was Cornette and Horford, I think is what it was. Off balance Euro, spins, puts the jelly on the layup, gets the Eagles off the glass.
Oh, that was unbelievable.
I mean, but he puts the shoulder in to keep the balance, gets to the other side, gets all the way out, full extension, and it's so clean. It's so pure.
One of his best non-dunk finishes I can remember seeing.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
And then he had another one where he drew a foul where Shea's biggest offensive issue besides aggressive skill issue is his handle. And he's told me before, I need to work on it. I need to get stronger. I need to tighten it up. It is the thing that will unlock everything else for me. That's why he works in dribble handoffs as opposed to pick and rolls more often than not, because it puts him at an advantage when he turns the corner. But it was a semi-transition break, and it was I want to say it was Cornette that was back. He sees it, and he does a push-ahead Chris Paul dribble. And Derek White goes, oh no, because he knows this guy might get yammed on here because he probably saw the highlight of the Washington game and what happened to Champagny. And so he wheels back and just kind of clips Shaedon's legs and draws the foul. But it was all, he generates the foul in the open court, all because he was aggressive.
He's starting to accumulation in the league.
Yes, but you should go into a game as an opponent and you should fear Shaedon Sharp's aggressiveness. Because his physical profile, physical ability is so above everyone else's.
But I don't think we're there yet.
No, we're not. But that's what I'm saying. This is how you do this.
Should.
Yes, you should. That is what I'm saying. And you do that by continually being aggressive. Now, he didn't get the free throws tonight. He
didn't.
Which there was a couple times
it felt like he should have.
He got smacked a couple times, but look, 17 free throws apiece. Both teams shot over 43s. The refs are sitting there going, okay, I'll go ahead.
So we talk about sample size. So where are we with Shea now? We're about a week of this? A week of seeing this level of it? Okay, so we're getting there.
Yeah.
So if we come back from the trip and maybe we get into the homestand kind of after those 9 cities and 9 games situation, we're home for a little bit, we see it over, let's say, 15 to 20-ish games. Then we're kind of getting into the area of, okay, can we get this thing going throughout the rest of the season? Because hopefully, and it seems like Portland's going to play meaningful basketball kind of the rest of the way. Dallas lost by a boatload tonight. Portland's still 4 back of the 10th. They do have to pick up 5 games on Dallas because Dallas has the tiebreaker. Mm-hmm. But, guys, even though they lost, I feel better about Portland's play-in chances right now than I did the other night because they've gone into 2 buildings, Cleveland and Boston, and
2 best teams in the East, and they've been
very competitive.
Yeah.
There were a Denny Avdia 3 away from winning one of those games. And even though they're going to OKC, and we know how hard the schedule is, to make the playoffs, to make the play-in, to be in that position, you should have to beat teams that you shouldn't beat. Mm-hmm. That's how you become a team that gets close to 500. That's how this works. And Portland has already done that. They have to do it more. And I think they have the opportunity to continue this run. Like we are so far past a tank. Like there is no tanking anymore. There's 19 games left in the season. Like it's not going to happen.
I mean, to be quite honest, you got the player development, you got the wins, you got the losses in terms of draft position. So in all, it's almost like, well, we're in this position. You can't go back. Its only way is to go forward. I mean, so you're right. A playoff position is, or a play-in position at least, should be the thing that they're going for. And you look at the NBA draft lottery odds right now. It's not always going to guarantee if they were a tank, they were going to get it. We talked about it a lot with the Pistons and how they, had bad records, and they didn't end up with the number one overall.
The Suns managed to yank a victory out of the jaws.
I went to
of
bed. I
defeat.
can't believe they won that game.
Look, I mean, it was egregious basketball.
I saw
Jeff Van Gundy was losing his mind calling the game. Bud and KD.
Yeah. Well, Jeff was looking sour that his team was up 30, and his brother Stan was the one losing his mind.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
The Van Gundy boys just going crazy in their respective parts. But I just saw that rip away. I saw it was a 20-point game, and I'm like, I'm going to bed early. And I woke up this morning, I saw that they came back and
43
won.
fourth quarter points will do that.
Why'd you go to bed on that? Didn't you like that? Was drama. That was something you needed to keep watching.
No, we got to get our 9, Tyree. We got to get our 9.
Oh, my gosh.
That's right.
You need to get his 9 hours of sleep. Fair enough. But yeah, talk about the Suns. They're in a situation now, too, where it's like, okay, a little dysfunction on the sidelines.
They don't want to convey that pick to the Rockets.
There we go. And then Dallas Mavericks, well,
they're going to tank because of the Kyrie Irving injury, because of the AD injury. They're going to turn it off. You still have to pass the Suns on top of that.
Let's go to the Blazer box.
Portland owns the tiebreak, I believe.
They do, but again, I'm gonna do the thing, Joe. How many losses? How many losses do the Suns have right now?
33.
How many losses do the Blazers have?
2 more than that.
Okay, so it becomes 5 games because you're gonna need to get to that tiebreaker spot.
Wait, how does that become 5? That's 2. 33 to 35.
No, how far out of the Mavs right now?
Yes, got 5 on Dallas. Okay, we are in agreement there.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So
All
you
right,
have to get to that, at least that level.
Right, you have to make up 5 games on Dallas in the last 19.
Fair.
That's 5 and 19 is
right. But you just said Dallas is tanking. So let's say Portland goes 9 and 10, and Dallas goes 4 and 15. If they're tanking, is that not a possibility? Not saying it's likely.
I haven't looked at who Dallas is playing down the stretch. I think you're going to have to get. It's going to get pretty dicey, particularly because usually in the last 30 days of the season, you're playing mostly in conference. Now the Blazers do have the Raptors and Wizards coming to town to make their trips, but for the most part, you're going to play in conference and you're going to play in division.
I see some tough teams. Here we go. I'm going to rip them off.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Grizzlies, Suns, Spurs, Rockets, 76ers, Pacers, Pistons, Nets, Knicks. Is this good TV? Magic,
this is great TV.
Bulls, Nets, Hawks, Clippers, Lakers, Raptors, Grizzlies.
I counted 9 wins, even for a tanking team.
Tanking means you're trying to lose.
Your math might be wrong. You sure?
Yeah, the level of tanking that you would need to get to out-tank the 76ers, to out-tank the Raptors, to out-tank the Nets, because they aren't tanking in the Mavs world. The Mavs are just trying to get then to like 8, 9, 10 odds.
Sure.
Those other teams, they're fighting each other for every single crappy game.
Well,
and so you're going to see some. If you thought it was bad with those teams before, you were about to see the great tank off of 2025.
Blazer box. We can see this. Let's look at this Maverick schedule. I mean, why not? Yeah, they got destroyed today.
They did.
By Milwaukee
against
Bucks.
Milwaukee. So that one's done.
Memphis, Phoenix, San Antonio twice, Houston, Philly, which is whatever.
So both Spurs games and the 76ers are definitely on the table. You're going on the road at the Nets. That's definitely on the table. The Magic is kind of, but Chicago, Brooklyn, Atlanta, Toronto, and then here's the other thing, and this is always so stupid, that very last game of the season. We never know what it's going to be. Because the Portland Trailblazers lucked out in this when in 2019.
Let's go. The Ant Simons game.
It's the Anthony Simons game, 37 points. The Portland Trailblazers will never say it publicly. They tried to lose that game because they did not want to face the Oklahoma City Thunder in the playoffs. Ended up working out great for them, as we all know.
It all worked out.
But Dave Yeager, in the third quarter, who knew he was getting fired, decided to say, "Screw it, I'm gonna mess some things up here, and I'm gonna sit all my guys."
The old Lovie Smith.
Yeah, and when he did it, the Blazers ended up winning and getting put in the same bracket with the Thunder.
Like, if you're a lame duck coach, what could be more fun than screwing over the team that's about to fire you?
Just,
That's got to be
it,
a
right?
top 10 feeling.
Oh, gosh.
but not
it's
just
fun
that,
stuff.
just let me go screw with somebody else. Let me have some fun
Right.
here. And, the Blazers were trying to avoid the Thunder, and they got in that. So now the Blazers tried to rectify this a little bit by making basically everyone start at the same time on the last game of the season.
Yeah, everyone's at noon 30, right?
Yeah, but if you're locked into your seating, which I would imagine the Memphis Grizzlies are probably going to be locked into their seating, but on the flip side, Jaren Jackson Jr. might be out maybe the rest of the season with a grade 2 ankle sprain.
Can we just daydream for a second?
Sure.
Last game of the season, the Lakers come to town.
Okay.
Let's just say the Lakers.
Let's say winning that game puts you in the play-in. Is that what you're going to go with?
I mean, if you want to dispense with the suspense, then yes, let's just put it that way.
I don't.
Get rid of the surprise.
I
Why
just want
not?
to get it over with. That way I can't pantomime the thing that I want to do right now.
Not on air.
I don't understand you, Marang. You wouldn't have fun if you were in that building and it was to go to the 10 seed and Luka, and let's say the Lakers win and they get the 2 seed,
Look at
which
his
they're
face as
trying
you're
to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it wouldn't just be a win to get in the play-in against, Dalton Connect shooting 40 times.
Individual scoring or individual moments, as fun as they are, you have to look at everything. Conveying that pick is a bad thing.
But if you're the 10 seed, you don't convey the pick, and this is
and
where...
instead, you drive your odds up even worse for the hell of it.
But if you finish... We're talking about between 1% and 1.5% at that point.
It's just
Double-edged sword.
At
Risk
that-
and risk.
there's just no point in it to me. If you're gonna get in, get in. If you're not, don't.
You know what you need? I think you need a best day brewing.
Oh.
Isn't that right, Joe? Doesn't he need a little best day? Something will take the edge off, but not the edge off?
He's thirsty. The game's over, but the night is just getting started. Let's keep those good vibes going with Best Day Brewing, the fastest growing, non-alcoholic craft beer brand. It's the ultimate post-game play. We get to enjoy a great beer without worrying about tomorrow because, let's face it, shaking off this afternoon's tough loss doesn't need no alcohol, Dan. So fans, make every day your best day. Find your nearest Best Day Brewing retailer at bestdaybrewing.com. We got to hit number 20. Top 25 Blazers of the 21st century. We've done 5 so far. Your favorite Blazer, were they on there? You should have been watching. Number 20
That's my
is
last
who?
name. Doesn't he have my last name?
It's not Tyree, but Steve Smith.
There we go.
Uncle Smitty,
Just trying to give you guys
a move so good that he has a move so good it's named after him. The Smitty, the half spin back to the other side, come back over. Even though Steve Smith's time in Portland was quite short, just the 2 seasons he was here in the 99, 2000, 2001 season.
Yes.
He was incredibly impactful. Smitty's game was a game that I loved. Is so pure, so smooth. Steve Smith, if you ever have the opportunity to talk with him, incredible dude, great guy, just personified what that team was. Honestly, I think it kind of harkens back to what this team is trying to get to.
Yeah. Having
a ton of very versatile wings. Like, you just go back and you look at that team. It's Smitty, it's Bonzi, it's Rashid. Like, this group of incredibly...
Detlef when he was here for
I mean, you look at the roster, and yes, it's great, but like Stacey Ogman, Gary Grant, I mean, you just like... And then it had monster humans like Arvidas and Jermaine O'Neal and Brian Grant. Like, they were just big and forceful. And Smitty had this grace to his game that nobody else on that team did.
It was almost like he had to walk so Ray Allen could run in terms of not necessarily the shooting prowess, but grace, I think, is the best word for it, Danny. He had an elegance about the way that he played basketball where he did it in such a relaxed way. It almost felt like he wasn't going to make a mistake, or a mistake was a glitch in the matrix, or if he took a shot and it didn't go in, something is wrong because Smitty is so pure. And
he missed a shot in that fourth quarter.
He did.
That it was like, and I've heard Rasheed Wallace and Smitty talk about it. Like,
this isn't why we're... Is it?
No, but I mean, that's what that team is unfortunately remembered for, is blowing that lead in the fourth quarter to the Lakers. I mean, we all know. If you're crazy if you think otherwise. Whoever wins that series goes on and wins an NBA title.
Right.
It was the battle of the 2 best teams in basketball. That's why the games in that series...
They beat Indiana, right?
Yes, were what they were. And that team was incredible, and Steve Smith was another part of that. Like if you go back and you look at that team, it is truly incredible. You look at the box scores up and down.
I know.
There is
Just how flat everything is.
Nobody. Yeah. Steve Smith was your second leading scorer
With 14?
15 a game, 14.9.
What was she at, 17 or 18?
I think it was 18.
Yeah.
No, he's 16. But
God, that's incredible.
Number one, scoring was down.
Scoring was down, but
you
still.
also had like 8 guys that averaged like 9 or more, and it was just like
Right.
This is fun watching you guys reminisce, by the way.
Is-
Just,
Well,
just letting you know.
This was a team that went up against Kobe and Shaq.
It's the third most, in terms of eras, it's the third most successful era in Blazers history.
Yes, you have the title.
70s, early 90s, late 80s.
Late 90s.
This team, and then I would put the 2019 run as the kind of the, not culmination, but the peak of Dame's era.
Certainly.
Here in Portland.
Since you brought that up, I would actually like to go to this before we talk a little bit about OKC on this Friday. Let's talk a little bit on the Blazer box, actually, because we didn't get to Trend BA. We got a little bit. This is talking about LaMarcus Aldridge and Chris Haynes. They've been having a little bit of time, and they talked, and LaMarcus talked on Chris Haynes' story on a show, talked about how he tried to return to Portland 2 or 3 times after Dame asked him to reunite on the Blazers, and I heard a nice sigh. So I'm curious on your guys' thoughts about that. Would that have been what Dame needed?
I don't know if it's what he needed.
Oh, I can tell you right now, I would have preferred him over Carmelo Anthony.
Well, Danny, you would have preferred a sack of flour over Carmelo Anthony.
Potatoes, too.
To be fair, yes, but also
It would have been great.
LaMarcus was a better player even at that point. Like
Yes.
that 1920 season when Carmelo came to the Trailblazers, LaMarcus averaged 18 and 8. Like he was still hooping.
I'm not saying this isn't true. It probably is, but like, I don't know how useful these extra. I mean, it's interesting to know when we talk about it, but like, I don't know how useful it is to
I'll tell you
have
what,
these types of conversations.
even beyond this. Number one, it's something that's out there. It's confirmed. It happened. I've
Right.
heard it from other players. The thing that bothers me the most, the single thing that bothers me the most about this, is that when an opportunity came up to have him come back and retire as a Trailblazer, they didn't do it. That bothers me. I want to use a word that I can't use on TV, but that's the kind of thing that genuinely bothers me, because he is on the Mount Rushmore of Trailblazers. I don't care how you feel about LaMarcus Aldridge. He's one of the 4 best players in the franchise's history. When you're on that spot on the leaderboards, you just are. And for them to not even do that, like bring a minimum contract, bring an all-time great back into the fold, mend some fences, extend the olive branch, both ways.
it's still possible.
No, he's retired.
No, I'm not saying
He can still come
mending
back.
the fences.
Yeah,
obviously,
but
is
that's
still possible.
not doing this, you don't get the opportunity to have him come on the floor with that 12 jersey. Nobody is wearing that number again. That number is going to go up there.
I completely agree.
And not letting him put it on one more time really bothers me.
I'm not saying that is the correct move. I'm just saying that there is still an opportunity. Like, it's not like these people have passed away. There's still an opportunity to have this happen, and it should happen because you're seeing it with other alumni.
Without saying anything, they have reached out to him, and communication has improved, I would say, post Neil O'Shea.
Well, I think most things have improved post Neil O'Shea. You can agree on that.
So it's just more overall having his legacy cemented in the Motor Center.
Yes, I mean, like, look, we've
But
brought.
I think it is. Is it not cemented?
No, it's not. It's not.
But by who?
I think there's still some stuff out there, and I think that would have been a huge part.
Among the fans,
Yes.
the LaMarshmallow stuff.
Yeah, and LaMarsha and like all that. Like, I remember LaMarcus's mom came into the Blazers Edge comments years ago and defended LaMarcus. There was all these little things that were out there that just popped up, and I would have loved to have him back once. Just let him be the human victory cigar. Let him be the veteran on the bench and go
The
out there.
Udonis Haslem?
Yes, and just bring him back into the fold before his career ends. Now, they've brought Greg back. They've brought Brandon Roy back. The best player and the most successful of the 3 still isn't back in the fold. Now, they're trying to mend those fences and bring them back and bring back the alumni more, but they had an opportunity to put his jersey back on again, and they didn't do it. That's a misstep.
I don't want to end today's show on a bad note, but let's go ahead and end on this one. OKC, right now they're beating the Memphis Grizzlies, and then they will be our opponent for a Friday Rip City Wrap-Up, episode 64, right here on the Rip City TV network. Well, they are tipping off at 5 p.m. on Friday.
I do love a long road trip that ends against the best team in the Western Conference.
It's going to be
Oh, boy.
I know. It's going to be interesting. Curious, folks. How? I don't like that face.
Oh,
This is the one that I think you had circled before the trip. That's like, uh-oh.
hey, it's Game 7 on the end of a 13-day trip. How is this going to go?
And look, we have seen Portland be successful against Cleveland, against Boston. I think both of those were a little bit surprising. If they're that competitive against OKC,
I will
I
be
will be
stunned.
And look, the last time OKC came into Portland,
They
were
played
competitive.
3.5 quarters before OKC
Absolutely.
just cranked them out in the fourth
And
quarter.
we will see what happens on Friday. But I am done doubting this 24-25. The 25 Portland Trailblazers.
There you go.
Okay.
Done doubting this team.
The doubt should have been gone. Doubt should have been gone last week. It's a fun time.
On the flip side of this, there probably isn't a spread big enough for me to not take the Thunder. It's Denny's probably going to be out.
The number was 9.5 tonight. How do they know?
Boy, was that close.
How do they know?
Vegas. They do it for a living.
I mean, those buildings did get big on their own.
A lot of gambling money.
Yeah.
Either way, folks, appreciate you joining us for episode 63. We'll be back here on Friday after the Thunder. They try and beat the Blazers. We'll see if they get
63?
it. Bro.
Whoa.
Crazy,
Yeah, no.
right?
Whoa.
We got so many episodes. It's been fun. Thanks for joining us on the journey. We'll see you guys back here on Friday. Have a good rest of your week.
Love you all so much.
Bye.